The tenant does not pay the rent by, I usually put the 5th day of the month. The tenant shall pay a late charge of $50 or whatever the landlord wants. I usually put 50 because that just makes it a little scarier for the tenant not to be late. And then it goes on to, if the checks bounce, I put, there's a $35 processing fee if the check bounces.
Actually, that's gone up. Banks are charging a little bit more here.
They charge now a little
I
bit.
heard it, yeah.
You can put $50.
50.
You can put
50 and
$50
50.
there too, exactly. Again, so then kind of worries, scares them, thinking, okay, I'll, rent up bounce a check. And stuff happens. I mean, we've all been there. You think the money's in there and then you get a phone call. Utilities. Again, this is where you would put what the tenant is paying for. And normally it's gas and electric.
You've had the landlords pick up the water bill?
I do.
I have one instance, not me, but I heard of an instance where the owner went to check it out and they were running a laundry service in the house.
Really?
So because his water bill was up, he thought he had a leak in the line, so he went to check it out and here they doing a laundry service.
It depends, like, I guess it would really depend on the landlord. They might say, okay, well, they want the water to be put in the tenant's name. The reason why I have a couple of landlords, so my landlord that is really, picky, he has a property in Circularville and he does have the tenants pay for the water there. Now I have another landlord who has a quad in Millville and she picks up the water and the sewer. So it all depends on the landlord.
Technical thing, just in case you don't know it, is if the tenant doesn't pay the rent and you got in there, you checked that you're taking care of the electric, the gas, the water, the heat, you can't turn those services off.
I know.
That's stuff in New Jersey, so if at all possible, let the tenants pay for it.
This is also what happens. So I have the landlord that has the quad. One of the tenants wasn't paying the gas bill. The gas company automatically put it in the landlord's name.
Mm-hmm. Was it a separate meter?
There's all four. Yeah, because that quad has all 4 separate meters.
Separate meter, and they wouldn't just turn it off?
No, and then she called the gas company and said just shut it off because she knew the pipes wouldn't freeze because of the other units. And the gas company refuses. I guess technically they can't legally because you have to have, especially in the wintertime. It's happening now.
Right.
It's the wintertime, so they have to, legally they probably have to have people with heat in their house. So she's literally paying the gas for this woman. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
I didn't know that would happen.
So she is having her evicted, but and she keeps calling the gas company, please turn it off, and the gas company won't. So. And another question to ask the landlord: the trash? Like who really? Like if the some townships you have to pay to remove trash. Who's going to be responsible for that? And it's probably going to be the tenant because it's their trash. So, but sometimes the trash removal is in with the taxes.
Sometimes, yeah.
And then again, I'm not going to read the whole contract, but just kind of go over what is in this contract. It's pretty much just protecting the landlord and the tenant. Here, okay, so this renewal of the lease. So again, it's up to the landlord. I usually put 60 days, so 60 days prior to a lease expiring, the landlord should send out a registered letter of saying, what are your intentions, do you want to stay? And then the tenant is supposed to get back to him, okay? So then if everybody knows, if the landlord needs to know if he should start marketing it to re-rent. And then if the landlord doesn't want to re-rent to the tenant, then the tenant needs to know so they have time to find someplace. So I've seen it through 30 days. What do you put?
I put 60.
60, yeah. Some people only say, okay, all you do is give me 30-day notice.
You'll know in advance. Generally, the tenant will tell you leaving.
Yeah.
Most of the issues are always with the tenant, not with the landlord.
Right, exactly. Unless the landlord planning on selling it or something. Yeah. Okay, so the broker commission part. There's 2 spots, like landlord in accordance with the previous executed listing agreement. this is where it kind of gets, some agents like check that off. I check this one off because technically the tenant's paying everything. Even though the landlord's not getting the money for the rent, the first month's rent, it's really coming from the tenant. So I usually word it tenant and shall be payable as follows. I would put first month's rent to Keller Williams Realty as one check, and then the second check would be security deposit in the amount of to whatever the landlord's name. That's what I put here. And some people just check that off, and then basically it's between the landlord and the agent. And then like anything else, you know, you just fill out the listing broker's name, the address, telephone number, the participating broker if there's any. Then we have our lead-based paint, and then of course our declaration of license and business. So again, so you would put Keller Williams, and then here, right here, you would put your name and whether you're just local agent or just working for the tenant. And then this is the, okay, other lease provisions. So this is where you would put anything that the landlord would want, or even the tenant. I put here that, especially if it's a one-bedroom unit, I put in here, unit is occupancy limit is 2 people. If we know that they're only renting it to one person, I put occupancy limit is for one person only.
Is that right?
Because then they can have somebody move in. You know what I'm saying? But if they want somebody to move in, call the landlord and say, listen, I have someone, you know, I just got married, they're moving in. I'm sure that it'll be fine, but you just don't want some, I have the landlord that has the quad.
Yeah.
The same woman that's not paying her rent, her daughter decided, and her kids decided just to move into the unit, and it's a 1-bedroom.
Right.
So it's in violation of the lease. So now we put on there that occupancy, if she's only renting it to one, occupancy is for one person only. If she says it's a husband and wife, she'll say occupancy is for two people only. I've put on here that if there's assigned parking, again, and it's things that you learn. There was an issue. The tenant didn't have a car, but she had an assigned parking spot. So she felt it's in a fenced-in yard. So she felt because she didn't have a car, when her family members came, they could just park in her spot. That's not what the landlord wanted. The landlord said that spot is for the tenant only. So now we put in the lease, tenant has an assigned parking spot, car has to be registered to the tenant in order to pay, in order to park in assigned parking.
Well,
All relatives or all guests need to park on the street. So again, but that's up to the tenant. That's how my landlord wants it.
it's been around the block and knows what it's.
She's owned these units for over 30 years. Yeah. So she's seen it all, and we just had an issue where we didn't put that in, and the tenant's brother would come park in her spot, peel out, and have stones kicking all over the other cars. Oh my God. Again, I didn't manage it, but guess who kept getting the phone calls? Yeah, I kept getting the phone calls. So we literally, me and the landlord had to go to the house and have a sit down with the tenant and give her the rules, and so we did an addendum with all the rules and what she was young. First, 20 years old, all on her own, you know what I'm saying? So she didn't really, so we spelled it all out on an addendum, and everybody signed it. Not good, have not had a problem since. So, and these are things that just unfortunately come up. You can put tenant, property gets exterminated every 3 months, landlord would give 24-hour notice. So whatever you want to put there, or what landlord wants to put there, that's where that spot goes. You gotta love this business though, you just learn so much.
Yeah.
You learn how to negotiate with your kids too.
Yeah.
So, and then everybody signs. That's pretty much it. Okay, the last thing is the W-9. The tenant has to sign the W-9 for the security deposit.
Interest on a security
Yes.
deposit.
Okay. So she fills it out, signs it, and then you give it to the landlord.
I have a question. I'm picking up a two-bedroom, a one-bedroom unit that's on the second level. So I have to now be concerned with child gates or window guards?
You do, is it the second level, or is it more than, what, there's 2 levels?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure
That's what-
either, to be honest with you. That's something you can, look
Yeah.
into. And I don't know, well, actually, it's not, I don't think it's in our lease either. The,
That's what the
it
comment
used to
section-
be, I remember that was real big, where you had, there was a separate piece of paper, and you had to get the tenant to sign whether they wanted guards or not. And if they did, the landlord had to put the guards on the window. And that was for children that were under 8 years old or something like that?
I don't know the particulars, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
remember, because it kind of just went away, really.
Because I'm listing the second level, you know, it's got a deck on it and all this, so
Yeah.
that you worry about kids climbing over.
Yeah,
You can't you can't advertise it as no children because it's against the law,
Exactly.
discrimination.
yeah, I know. It's tough, because the same landlord again that has the quad, she doesn't want kids. So it's tough, because and this is how I kind of eliminate them, so when they call me and the minute you hear kids in the background, I'm like, oh, it's rented. Is it wrong? Yes. But it's better than saying, oh, by the way, the landlord doesn't want kids, and then they can,
Condo
File a complaint.
association, one of the condo associations I deal with, they ask for the tenants' names of all the people that are going to be in the
Right.
unit,
yeah,
and if there's children underage.
right.
So I think that's how you
And you
flag
should
it.
list it, and this would, and additional provisions, you should list, if you're renting out a huge home, you should list in additional provisions the people that are gonna be living in there, just so it's documented
Yeah.
and it's, you know, the ages and stuff like that. That's a
Right.
good point, thank you.
Yeah.
I had,
This New Jersey is a very tenant
yeah.
conscious state.
The quad that I'm trying, I have one unit that I'm trying to rent out for Beverly, and the same lady that is not paying her rent referred her niece. And I didn't know it. And so I'm showing it to her. Before I ran her credit, I showed it to her. She works 2 jobs, and you really shouldn't really judge one against the other, but when I asked for the $36, she didn't have a debit card, so she gives it to her aunt to put in her account, and then she calls me with the aunt's information, and that name clicked immediately, and I'm like, oh, I said, are you related to the tenant downstairs? She goes, oh yeah, it's my aunt. Well, she's not paying her rent, and she's costing the landlord more money by not paying, her utilities. So I called the landlord's like, absolutely not, no, I'm not renting to her. I was honest with her. I went to her and I said, listen, the landlord, because there's issues going on downstairs, which you need to talk to your aunt about. I didn't say what it was about. I said, you need to go talk to your aunt about it. I said, the landlord will not rent to you, I'm sorry. So.
Now, you're using the $36.
I do, but there's people, Howard has, he gave me another name of another place, a company, and you don't even have to collect the $36. You give that website to the tenant.
All right, tenant safe?
No, Tenant Safe is where you would collect the money, and then you go online.
Right.
I have to find out which one Howard is using, because he says you give them the site, they go on, they pay it, and then all the information comes to you. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
saves the trip, yeah.
It does, it saves, having to collect the $36 and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. It might be a little more expensive, the other place, but I don't know.
I don't care, it's getting done.
Yeah,
If they
exactly.
can't do it, then they can't qualify to
Right.
rent the unit, so,
Right,
okay.
so, that's it, guys. It's not that hard.
Rosalie, if it's a commercial property,
You can't do it anymore.
we can't do, we still
No.
have to go through
It has to go through
still
an
have to go to
attorney.
an attorney for a lease on the
Yeah.
commercial, okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to verify that. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.